Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks interesting to you guys, please carry on and watch the video. And also one more thing before we get into the video, if you enjoy what I do here, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. It really helps me out and lets me know you enjoy the video. But with all that out of the way, let's get into that video. Okay, so to start with our mermaid here, what I'm doing is I'm basically going to be doing a slap job technique, which is starting off with black primer, and then you dry brush up from grey to white until you've got this nice value, as you can see here on the miniature. It gives us the perfect place to start off with placing contrast paints on a miniature, so you've got all sorts of highlights and shadows in all of the areas on the miniature. And as you can see here, I'm applying a flesh wash or a contrast paint here, which is guilliman flesh, and I'm applying this all over the skin. Now you can see that this paint is very transparent, and it's going to take a little time to build up the layers. Now, one thing with the contrast paints, especially since these ones here are this one here especially that I'm using is an earlier contrast paint, they're a little inconsistent with the coverage over them, so some of them can be really strong in pigment and others can be a little weaker in pigment, and this guilliman flesh is a little bit weaker in the pigment, but that's perfectly fine. All we're going to do is place a layer on, wait for it to dry and apply another layer, and if we need to apply another one again, just slowly building it up so we've got that perfect consistency we want to, but making sure that we keep the layers relatively thin. Then once we have that complete, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the scales of our mermaid here, and this one here I'm using akhelian green for this, which isn't really a green, it's more like a turquoise or more of a very bright vibrant blue. So I want to place this over all of the scales, all of the bottom half, the fish half of our mermaid here, giving a good overall color. And I must say this is striking color, very vibrant and strong, and really looks awesome. So I'm really happy I went with this color. It's definitely one of my favorite colors. I bought it recently and been applying it to a few of my other miniatures, and I'm really enjoying the paint. So another chance I get to use a color that I really like is always a bonus, and I think applying it to the mermaid here really does help sell that effect I'm trying to go for with this awesome aquatic being, and really giving it some interesting color and light. Then once we have that fish half of our mermaid complete here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with her hair color. I'm going to go with a red for this, and Blood Angel's red is what I'm going to be doing here, and giving it a good overall coat, making sure to be very careful with our contrast paint, so in case it accidentally runs, we don't want it running into our skin, since we've got that in a nice place and we're happy with it. We want to try and avoid it as much as possible. So giving a good overall, and especially with this mermaid here, when you're applying contrast paints, is to make sure that you definitely get into all those crevices, because if you are spreading it out and you miss a place, it can be quite splotchy when you want to apply more than one layer of paint. So always when you're applying a contrast paint, make sure you get everywhere on that miniature before that paint dries, and to give it the maximum amount of effect. Otherwise it gets sort of like a coffee staining effect on anywhere where the contrast paint has accidentally missed. Then once we have that completed, what I want to be doing is I'm going to be coming in with some Magos purple here. This is of course a purple contrast paint, and I'm going to be painting the shell bra for our mermaid here, and as you can see it really sticks out against all these other colors and gives it a nice interesting color to look at on the model, and it's just nice and easy. Of course, since this area is so small with the sort of shell bikini, is we want to make sure that we don't get that running onto the skin, as that will cause a very different dramatic in color with our purple onto that skin tone. So we want to try and avoid that as much as possible as well. And then if you wanted to leave the miniature here, you totally could, and this would be a great tabletop standard for the miniature. Get it nice and easily and quick on the table with only a few colors, and with that slap chop technique it really does speed it up. But I want to take it to the next level, and it was at this point that I realized that my thing again, where I was painting up this miniature and I realized this is really striking some memories for me. And then of course it immediately clicked when I was painting up the shell bikini bra there. As I was like, oh, of course, this is Ariel from the Little Mermaid. That's what I've subconsciously painted up here. Just going, because I was just thinking in my head, what colours would I do this mermaid? And I was just picking out straight away the colours of Ariel from the Little Mermaid. I thought, at this point, why not run with it and see sort of how close I can get with just using the paints that I've got here to try and recreate it similar. Now, I'm not going to go for recreating exactly. I didn't have any pictures with me on hand to reference until just showing you here what Ariel looks like compared to what I've painted up. But I was like, I can sort of remember the color scheme, so I'm going to try and paint her up to try and look a little bit closer to Ariel. So we'll see how close I get into it. But as you can see here, I'm coming in with kobold skin, a much lighter skin tone, because that original skin tone we have in here is going to be a great base shadow color. So I want to use that for all the recesses and the shadows of our mermaid here. And coming on with the kobold skin, I'm going to lighten that skin up with the nice highlighting, and hopefully all that nice shadow work will work in really well with the kobold skin as the upper layer and the highlights of the skin, and hopefully give me that good sort of contrast effect. Then once I've highlighted up her skin, I'm going to come in now with some dragon red, which is a brighter red than our blood angels red we used on her hair, and I want to use this to be picking out all of those highlighted points in the strands. This has some nicely sculpted strands on here, and especially since this hair has sculpted in like she's floating underwater, it has some nice little chunks that you can use to highlight with. So I'm going for aiming most of those ones there that are up closer and higher point, and using those to paint them in as the highlights here. Because if this had been a little bit closer to Ariel, they would have gone a little bit longer hair, because I definitely know Ariel has longer hair. So I'm just going to try and recreate it as much as I can, and she has that vibrant red hair. So, and coming in, of course, with our dragon red to highlight that up. It's very subtle. You probably can't really see too much on camera between our blood angels red and the dragon red I'm using here, but if you see it in person, you can definitely see there's a difference in the color. And because the colors were so similar, I wanted to put in a little bit more emphasis onto that hair color. So I'm coming in with a lava orange, a very thin paint this army painter one is. So it's going to be great for the highlights, as I want it subtly to transition to that more orangey color. And I'm just sort of picking out the very tips of the hair strands here. So we've got some of those nice natural highlights where you'd sort of see it moving through the sun and through the water at the very thinnest points, making it the most striking and highlighted color. And that's why I'm trying to go with orange for the very tips here, to really give it that little bit more emphasis and punch. Then once we have that complete, I want to focus a little more on the scales here, and this is going to be with Hydra turquoise, a lot brighter color than our akhelian green on here. And I'm going to be using this to pick out the fins and the tail fin here to give it a little bit of difference in color. So we've got something more interesting to look at. As well as that too, I'm also going to pick out a few of the scales over here for some of the highlights. As well as that too, I'm also going to be mixing it in with just a little bit of white here and there, and just using it for even brighter highlights, especially on those fins. We've got some nice sculpted in detail on the edge of the fins there. So mixing it in with a little bit of white and just catching it with the side of my brush is going to really help bring out the edges of those fins. So I'm going to transition to a little bit more white to add in a little bit more interesting color. So hopefully the plan is anyway to go from that turquoise all the way up to like a very bright vibrant blue, almost white, to give it that sort of interesting transparent look. But we'll see how that comes out with in the next step. Then now we have those fins and her tail picked out and highlighted up. What we're going to do now is I'm just going to come in with this lighter purple here. I'm just going to be hitting in those highlights of her little shell bra bikini thing here, such that we've got that little bit of highlight on there, making it look a little bit more interesting. But with that, we have finished painting up our mermaid here, looking a little like Ariel from the Little Mermaid. So let's go on to those glamour shots and see how it paint job came out, shall we? And with all that complete, we have finally finished painting up our mermaid to look like Ariel from the Little Mermaid, as a little tabletop miniature from Reaper Miniatures, and I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, whether you want to follow along with what I did here or use this video as some inspiration in painting up your own miniatures. But with all that said, guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.